trying to locate him.
Oh, good, okay. He's the star performer.
Yeah, of course.
The key performer, exactly.
Before I introduce our today's moderator, there is an announcement from our side about today's program. This session, including the breakout, will finish at 15:30 hours, that is 3:30 p.m. And after that, we have 30 minutes coffee break. And after that, we have the Idea Bazaar and the Bipsor tour. And for that, you will be divided into 3 groups. And we thought about many mechanisms how to divide you in 3 groups. So finally, we came out with the idea that the row on my right, that is this row, on the right side of this aisle will be the group 1. The center row will be the group 2. And the left row, that will be group 3. So as you go out from this hall, in the lobby you will find the guides are waiting with the placards with written group 1, 2, and 3. And please follow them to the vehicles and they will guide you to the respective in the tour. So group 1 will be visiting the United Nations designated site first. Group 2 will be visiting the Idea Bazaar first. And the group 3 will be visiting the Confidence Building Complex first. And thereafter the groups will be rotated. Thank you. Distinguished audience, ladies and gentlemen, our session today is on Voices from the Field, Digital Transformation. Distinguished audience, whatever we talk about digital transformation of UN peace operation, if you do not hear from the voices from the field, probably its implementation will not be sustainable. 3 distinguished speakers will discuss this important topic of the day. Mr. Mark Pedersen will act as the moderator of this session. Mr. Mark Pedersen is the Chief of Integrated Training Service within the Policy Evaluation and Training Division. The majority of...
Thank you. Welcome to Session 2, Voices from the Field. This morning's session gave us the headquarters view, which largely incorporates our aspirations and goals. This session is intended to take us much more to reality, the challenges that we're going to face as we implement a digital approach to our operations. As I listened to the questions from Session 1, particularly in this group, it's quite clear that reality is already intruding. How are we actually going to do this thing? So we have 3 speakers who are going to address field issues. At the end of the 3 speakers, we will have 15 minutes for questions before we move into breakout groups. The 3 speakers are Suleiman Tioune, Brigadier General Minhazul Alam, and Police Commissioner Fossen. Suleiman Tioune is currently the Chief of Staff in MINUSCA. He's been there since 2017. Before that, he has more than 20 years of military experience, and he's also served in the United Nations headquarters in both military and civilian roles. Brigadier General Minhazul Alam is an infantry officer. He has United Nations experience in East Timor Republic, in Kuwait, undertaken and Police Commissioner joining us from South. She began her police career in 1990. At the age of 36, she became the young Norwegian Police Service. She has a youth academic background, having served
first of all, since I'm one of the most of the university, the level of this, I represent consequences of the recent loss of peacekeepers due to mine destruction. The military contribution here is being regretted. So today I've been invited to talk about the digital transformation of voice from the field. We will enter the new era, the digital era. And our mission minister is fully involved. And while moving and proposing, we still face some challenges. We're going to talk about it. But first of all, we would like to tell you where we are in this minister digital landscape. Many digital initiatives were taken here, and we should have been the pilot for at least two of them. The Unite Aware, which is the situational awareness software program that uses modern technology for real-time threat assessment. We have been also pilot for the comprehensive planning and assessment, commonly known as CPAS. And this is a framework as you know. So, it's important, I think, to also mention that these tools are capturing similar and overlapping data that are not interconnected, which is, I think, something we can already identify as a challenge. Now, let me go quickly and do this on the top. One of these is the field remote infrastructure, what we call it, or we call it the FIM. This one is just to better manage or power the fuel, the water, the waste management, and of course this is always important for the climate change and the environment. Another one is the CPAS fact sheet. Yes, we also have the CPAS fact sheet providing some better context to the information for the senior leadership, but also for the Security Council. We've been providing this fact sheet during the SD presentation, and the member state midnight. Let's now, if you may, hit the heart of our subject, the challenge. The first one I would like to talk about is, of course, the seminar. The one window is and we also remain to define needs in terms of decision of the products and the tools necessary. Second field of challenges is integration. You have to say that in terms of integration, we need a greater one between the military, the police, and the civilian all working collectively. Actually, the problem is the fragmented nature of our cyber force that we need to reconcile, come together, and then to work together, and then to together. It's even another need when it comes to the AFP, the agency, the fund, and the program, because we use different tools. Why we have to work together, why we have to work together. This is also another challenge. The challenge related to training. Using all these different tools, we face a lack of skilled digitally trained staff in section and components. You know, just digitally enabled staff. We need really some skilled digital staff who are well trained. And of course, the turnover, the quick turnover of the military, but also from civilians, is always a challenge when it comes to continue to train and make sure that the staff are
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. When I was doing my National War course in USA back in 2018, they used to call post-lunchtime session as a graveyard session. With tummy filled and drifting mind, it was very difficult to concentrate. So I'm standing here as a post-lunchtime speaker. It's even more difficult once you are sitting next to a very serious moderator in 1-to-1 ratio. So I have butterflies in my stomach, but I'll share my experiences. Mr. Mark Pedersen, co-speakers, especially Mr. Suleiman, my old-time colleague, distinguished audience, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It is indeed a matter of great honor and pride for me to stand here and share my experience. It is indeed a matter of great honor and pride for me to stand here and share my experience. I want to start magnanimous man's lifelong struggle for peace and justice. I pay my earnest tribute for Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman at the outset of my presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, I worked as a sector commander of MINUSCA between October 20 to October 21. At the time, Central African Republic was going through a turbulent period. There were many significant events. One formidable, the election that took place almost after 5 years was rejected by all the armed group and coalition. The government still went for a unilateral conduct of the event. It cost several valuable lives of the peacekeepers and many civilians. However, the price paid did not guarantee a sustainable peace at the end. In MINUSCA, the other day, on 3rd October, we lost 3 valuable lives of peacekeepers. That number, adding to our earlier sacrifices, ladies and gentlemen, made Bangladesh Army as an institution, as an organization, to endure 129 martyrs of peace in just 3 decades. Let's have a close look at last 2 IED incidents. This is the one which happened on 31st December 2021. A 3-tonner was blown. Luckily, the driver survived after losing both his legs. The co-driver was safe. And this is the latest one on 3rd October 2022, near a TOB named Tui. 3 of our peacekeepers, they died, 1 survived. 3 of could address different and during the actions of bilateral forces. All these losses signify the limited abilities to tackle the vulnerability prevailing in the mission area. But before making a sharp and direct judgmental comment, we may try to understand the nature of the peace effort from a layman perspective. We have lost the visual. So please endure the technological glitch. All right. So anyone would understand in a layman perspective, from a layman's perspective, peace effort is actually a physical effort at the outset, which means some bodily components are put in place for action and effect. Then it is a noble effort. Excuse me. All right, I'll continue without the presentation slides. It's not working at the moment. All right, so the peace effort primarily is an effort, as I said, which means applying physical means onto the ground. Then it is the noble effort, which is planned and executed for common good. Finally, this is a concerted tenure as a sector commander. First one is the mismatch between the given task and resources available. An infantry battalion is deployed over 60,000 to 100,000 square kilometers area with conventional resources. So you can see the deployment of an infantry battalion with 750 men and very traditional mobility. Again, the intent to continue the surveillance over such a large area cannot be performed by mere patrolling. And some of you might be knowing, an infantry battalion is supposed to have only 25 square kilometers of area for the maximum. Now, irrespective of how meager the population number is, they live all over the area, and some of them keep moving from one place to another. So, a foolproof system could demand a perimeter protection mechanism, or else they should be under a force with higher mobility, who could instantly respond to the threats against them. But given the terrain and weather condition, as you can see on the screen, the available mobility apparatus is of no use, especially in rainy season. The second challenge, as I see, is the mismatch between operational permanency of the civilian component and the military components in the field. Military components get rotated on a yearly or 6-monthly basis. Every new component has to endure, in V.S. Naipaul's word, the enigma of arrival. They have to learn afresh, get physical orientation, and develop operational synergy, whereas the civilian component remain there for a long time. The civilian components' reserves remain there. Both components operate being in different. This could work well with the rational actors, but the armed groups are no more rational actors these days. They are targeting UN convoys, laying mines, using human shields, and child soldiers in some of the areas. They are sheltered and harbored by the civilian clans and groups who are again to be protected by the United Nations at the topmost mandated task. This poses an ethical dilemma or paradox of choice for the field commanders, and sometimes the actions are delayed. Solution: can technology help us segregating and separating pure civilians? Could there be a method of screening and identification? Could there be strong sensors and scanners that help the forces while doing such operation in villages? Next is the idealist procrastination. United Nations rules and procedures are very formatted. The staffs and employees do not take risk. United Nations at times suffer from procrastination of consultation. The rules of engagement dominate over rational judgment. I remember the troops contributing country wanted to change the age-old worn-out vehicles and carriers, but UN system took several years to give consent. Have a look at this slide. You see the APCs, they endure a lot of wear and tear in those rugged terrain. They're supposed to be rotated within 7 years. But see the state, this is from our country. Only in one case we were successful to rotate them. Next is the out-of-focus error and non-synergy. United Nations values diversity with utmost importance. A sector headquarters has many staff from all over the world with different backgrounds. This and tried to solve the problem on the table. Why this hesitation? As I understood it, there are certain kind of conceptual dichotomy of not to consider the belligerent groups as targets or enemy. So the mindset of shoot to kill does not prevail. Furthermore, almost all the armed groups are somehow rather in the middle of some kind of negotiation agreement with the government. In my sector, the most ferocious armed group leader, Mohammed Al-Khatim, was the minister of the coalition. But then he launched a massive attack on the government and UN forces at a place named Dekwa and killed 3 Berber soldiers. Overindulgence of efforts. This may sound little paradoxical to the first point, but in reality, it is rather complementary. If you see the volume of equipment that remains underutilized with each of the contingents, you will be surprised. All contingents are allotted with number of troops carrier, which are probably used once during initial deployment or during rotation. This could be minimized by a resource sharing approach. You can see this slide here. The next slide. So you see these troops carrier, it was only used for 70-kilometer run in 1 year time. And every contingent has this type of carriers number of times. Why I am making this point is because probably we could have a resource sharing approach and we could spend our money behind buying some sophisticated technology which could prevent our soldiers, give more protection and enhance the effectiveness. All right, how technology could possibly help? Technology, though not a cure all to all issues, could help in improving 7 areas: surveillance, reach, mobility, safety, cost saving, precision guidance, strike, training. All issues could help in improving 7 areas. Having said, in all in simple and straightforward lines, ladies and gentlemen, it is important to note that gaining the whole thing together, efficiency, synergy, diversity, idealism, is a difficult proposition even with highly technology-capable approach. Every component in the United Nations works based on individual styles, practices, cultures, and perception of limitation. The core working philosophy is inherently protective, defensive, than resolute or insistent. Even after all technological assistance, the peacekeeping force is no match to the locals when it comes to the acclimatization of the area. It is also very important to acknowledge that peace cannot be achieved by military instrument alone. The long walk to freedom, as said by Nelson Mandela, has to be made by climbing succeeding hills. Important is to committedly connecting with the faithful people in the areas of violence, understand the alpha and omega of their existence, and gain their confidence. Thank you all.
Thank you, and I now invite Police Commissioner Christine Fossen to make her presentation.
Thank you so much, Mark. Dear colleagues, dear ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon from Juba. Actually, here we are in the morning, but good afternoon to all of you in Bangladesh. Speaker and also my colleague from MIRSA. But I would like to say that there's a lot of similarities between the challenges and the advantage of digital transformation for both force and for unfold. And firstly, before I start, I would just like to say that we work very close here in UNMIS as well, and I think work with force. And I'm happy to say to my Bangladesh friends in Dhaka that the deputy FC here works very close with me as police commissioner, and I'm also happy to say that we have many good Bangladesh police IPOs. So they're performing very well, and we do see the Bangladesh flag in many occasions here in Juba. So thank you so much to the Eurohost government for providing us with so many good police officers from Bangladesh. Thank you. Next slide, please. Before I go into some of the challenges and what we experience here in UNMIS, I would like just to give you an overview of our mandate. I'm not going to read what's on the slide, and I'm not going to give you the numbers, just to let you know that our approved strength from the Security Council is, including IPOs and FDUs, is 2,101. We are currently on the numbers that you see on the slide. One of the challenges I will come back to is that these IPOs are coming from, today, electrician, the lack of stable electricity, and the lack of infrastructure, which is a challenge when it comes to digital tools, as you would probably know. But as also I just want to underline, as my colleague from the municipal said, we in UNMIS, we of course use all the digital tools which are available for us. We use them, and we try to improve our use of them. one of our biggest challenges is how we can utilize these tools in the best way. And I think, as it also has been mentioned, that the challenge of the rotation. Our unpool officers, our IPOs and FPUs, they rotate on a yearly basis. Some IPOs stay for 18 months, but still we're rotating the whole time. And with all these different backgrounds and the different skills when you arrive in the mission, it makes a challenge for the efficient use of the digital tools. Secondly, I would like to mention that the lack of infrastructure, as I've already mentioned, and capabilities in the host country or our host state can make the delivery of training and capacity building very slow and ineffective with these digital tools. Also because we're here in South Sudan, we're starting from a very poor literature level and lack of, as I already mentioned, electricity and communication network. So we have, for example, very unstable internet connections in many of our field offices, which makes the use of these tools, as already mentioned, kind of challenging sometimes. The third challenge is reacting to our reaction to rapidly changing environments, because we need to rapidly react. We need a proper and functional communication network. Sometimes we lack the sharing of information because we don't. But at the same time, we do see the challenges. I think in all peacekeeping missions that also social media can be used in a negative way. And I think we've seen this recently in MONUSCO. We see it also here in South Sudan, that social media can also be, if it's used in the wrong way, it can also be to non-benefit for the safety and security of our peacekeepers. One of the challenges we have identified in UNMISS is also the weather conditions. We have very, very harsh weather conditions, either it's the heat or it's the rainy season, which might affect our equipment, our digital equipment. And of course, then, because as you see, we have been using CCTV and scanning devices, and some of this equipment has also been vandalized or been stolen. That's also a challenge. And then we have sometimes it's a challenge with unfavorable host government, which is regulations restricting the usage of security-related technology. Not only the security-related security-related technology. We had many discussions also with the host government about how we use our Radio Maria, which is an UNMISS and UN radio station, which we use for transmitting it's a voice from UNMISS out to the people of South Sudan. But now we have discussed there have been some hiccups with the government, which also can be a challenge. What we see as a useful tool to reach our goals in the peacekeeping. Next slide, please. Recommendations, and my wish for the way forward is the training requirements. We really need to make sure that all the TCCs and PCCs, particularly for UNPOL, need is to make sure we have the basic training, engagement of experts to provide user training for specific equipment and mission environment dynamics. And once again, as already mentioned, we are rotating often. We have so many different PCCs contributing, and we need the basic skills for technology in use, both the communication systems, which I've mentioned, and the reporting tools. And I think also these reporting tools, the challenges we have here is also been mentioned quite a bit from the So my recommendation for the PCCs is, once again, basic training, so we all come in the mission, our IPOs come in the mission with some basic skills. And they should have, maybe to have the training combined into our standard SGF and our standard framework. And also, one of our recommendations would be to organize a duty debrief for the returning personnel to obtain feedback and practical experience from the personnel, which can be handed over to the next rotation coming in. ideals. And is compliant.
Thank you, Sir Brigadier General Minhazul Bosson. We have four questions, so if there are questions, I'd be happy to take a Q&A to others who can answer them. Okay. So, what we're going to do next is to move into some police, civilian, and take the civilian group. Assistant Chief will step take the police group, and Brigadier General will allow here. We break at 15:30 for coffee. I wanted to take my moderator's privilege on 3 points of PA, which struck and it's interesting to hear them come from the organisation itself. First, as Goodman said about the based organisation, not the organisation, and any bureaucracies. Hazul made the point that the UN is effective and resistant. And after 5 years after the Dos Santos, I'm still rather a little to do to change people's minds, make them become much. What we need to bear in mind as we push down the track towards digital transformation, we can try possibly.
It's from Miss here. Are we, Mark?
Christine and Susan, thank you. That's it. Thank you very much.
We're not supposed to be in the breakout rooms?
No need. Over.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
From the back. Echo? Is it clear? All right, thank you. So we have two questions, and according to the session moderator, we have to focus more on second question. But I would like to show the first question and ask your kind opinion on the first question, if you have any. So it says that current technical knowledge, baseline among TCCs, what training or equipment help is needed by TCCs? So we have many troops contributing country representative here probably. Any idea? Anyone from the African continent? Anyone would like to? No. From Bangladesh? Please hand over the microphone. Okay, please hand over the microphone. Yes, please, sir, please. All right.
Thanks for the question. I will refer to number one, first line only. When we refer to current technical knowledge baseline among TCCs, I think this is too generic, because it depends on the level of personnel you need to train and what for you need to train. Junior ranks are to be fully operational, but as well they depend on technology. But for information management, for example, at staff level is essential. So we have to identify, first of all, to what level we are addressing the requirement of knowledge in terms of technology. And to the second one, let's say second line is for those who are not experts like me in what is available. For us, it's not easy to determine. I think that is important, the guidelines we may get from the United Nations, because we will go to operate perhaps one day under the same umbrella, all the missions. So in countries that are like Bangladesh or my own country providing troops for 6, 7 missions, if in the field the equipment is different, how can we train them? You see? Thank you very much.
For your nice opinion, and we have another respondent from here. Hey, Mike.
Yeah, hello. I'm Colonel Arnaud Rouget from the French General Staff.
Operation. This is solely based on my experience on the field, and also I am now dealing at the directive level. I am with the Overseas Operation Directorate. First is definitely the technique and procedures, which is very much pertinent for the units, sub-units. Then you are talking about doctrine. All right. Every country, they have their own doctrine of dealing with violences, fighting. But when we talk about it is peacekeeping mission, United Nations have their doctrinal manuals at different levels. They have infantry battalion manuals. And on top of that, they have the strategic guidance. They have the concept of operations. They have the force commanders' routine, operational orders. And some of the missions I have seen, they have the strategic guidance as well, overarching one. So those are there in place, but how much they can bring uniformity of effort, because every country is coming from different kind of background, perception, how much adaptation the countries could make to fit them into the unison of the United Nations peacekeeping doctrine. And that is a big question. I think that's a big question. So that is my opinion. No response or answer. So we have another point from here. All right. So you tried 3 times.
Thank you very much, sir. This is Group Captain Shahid from Bangladesh Air Force. Sir, as far as technical knowledge is concerned, just I'm making a case of aviation-related assets deployment to UN. You know that the aviation assets that's being deployed in UN worldwide are being operated made us to train enough to have redundant units back in the country to support that UN mission back in Mali. Unless these gaps are noticed early, and those gaps are filled up, they will enter UN system, and their training and safe and efficient operation will continue to lag behind. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other opinion on this first question? So someone, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Major Fadil from MPC. Okay, the first one you're talking about current technical knowledge baseline among TCCs. Well, this is very abstract. So it differs between the education policy, where you have to stand the benchmark. Each and every nation differs. So you have to conduct a survey. You have to know what is the benchmark first. That is the first one. And then the training or equipment help is needed by the TCCs. Okay, then we have to look the the preconditions set up by this host nation. Okay, although this the first the domicile law must be first considered. So then before we can decide what training or equipment is needed by the TCC. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Hello. I want to say something on this particular point. As a sector commander, what I felt that when I received different staff officers, MSOs from different countries, many of them worked in G1, G2, G3, different kind of section, intelligence operations or administration. Not every country actually has the probably time and ability to transform their staff officers and contingents according to the United Nations standard. So there could be institutional approach, especially for the officers, which could be an answer to this kind of problem. That is my understanding. So we'll shift to the question number 2. Any other opinion on this first question? Commandant Bishur is here, sir. Sir, do you have something on question 1, sir? Sir.
What Group Captain Shohid was talking about, that if you talk about getting into transforming into digital technology or introducing digital technology, the introduction of the enablers or equipment is challenging, is costly. But to me, it's even more costlier to ensure and build up a training infrastructure, particularly for TCCs like us. And sometimes, as he was referring, there are issues that, yes, there are countries who have this technology and they are eager to share it or support the other countries with that. But that has to be a very comprehensive system. It cannot be only looking at immediate deployment and operation. Sustainability of the system and having the required
technical capacity. Any thoughts on this one? I can share something on this particular issue because I was also talking to Milad extensively when he arrived. There are very eager contributors, even in African continents, but they do not have the technical capacity. So there is a concept of co-pledge, which means that the countries with technical capacity will contribute with their equipment, and then the others, they will contribute with their troops or soldiers. So this is an ongoing concept. Any thoughts on this one? All right.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Herbert Lorez, the team leader of the Light Coordination Mechanism, the United Nations Light Coordination Mechanism. We are the partnership mechanism for member states at the United Nations DPO. And yes, there is currently a paper. It's available on the COE 2023 Working Group website, where you can find the proposition of the Secretariat and how we would like to propose a policy on co-deployment, where two member states as a regional coordination network. We did one recently in Latin America and the Caribbean. The LCM is in charge of doing the bridge between those networks as on the Secretariat. And this is where some member states who may have a lot of troops but need the partnership of other member states that can bring this highly valuable and expensive technology, as well as on the trainings that goes with. They can partner together, they can co-deploy, but if this paper is adopted and this new policy is in place, they could also join only as contributing through the equipment. So these are the options that are coming.
Thank you, sir, for your comments. Any other idea? Sir.
First of all, I'd like to share one thing, like that regarding the digital or whatever technology at this moment UN has is a very high-end product. And mostly the NATO is a NATO-based product, and I have seen my experience that like those who are from the NATO background, they are very comfortable with using this technology. But for the TCCs of the developing or underdeveloped countries, mostly they find the gap. The problem is that they deployed in the mission, then the technology is given to them, they start learning, and when they learn and 3 months, try to implement for another 6 months, then they're back to country. So my suggestion is that I know NATO has...
share another experience. There was very high-end unmanned aerial vehicle, UAVs, which were deployed in an area named Sibuth. Those were not under any contingent because probably many TCCs which were operating in Central African Republic could not afford to have those. So those were brought by United Nations under some kind of contractual agreement from the civilian contractors. I was the sector commander who was allotted with those two UAVs. I still remember some of the name of the operators. They became very friendly with us. But apart from that, the effectiveness of the UAVs could not benefit the troops because those were very often affected by weather. As I mentioned during my presentation, that the protective mentality of in the United Nations that prevails. Everyone actually want to remain safe first, which is not wrong. But whenever they are employing their equipment, if they are employing for their own nation, probably they are accepting a little bit of calculated risk. But I found that when we are requesting the UAV deployment during the massive armed group movement, they said it is getting affected by the weather. So when we talk about sharing technology, supports, capacity building, training, whatever we say, actually bridging the mindset is the most important thing that I have felt in the mission area. Unless we are standing on the same page, same platform.
So that the TCC with the low technical capacity, loan with the equipment and training, so that both there will be a win-win situation and the things will be, UN will be benefited. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. I think that's a very good proposition. Any other? Sir, we have 5 minutes, so Commandant Bipshot is once again requested to say something on. You are the president, sir, now, so.
I think, again, as it was mentioned, yes, transitional approach, smart pledge, or whatever you name, that is the call of the day. Particularly, we have found that the TCCs are mostly from the either the developing or least developed countries who has the aspiration, has the guts to put the boots on ground, but the ground is so complex and challenging that it's likely to be affected and you're likely to succumb to some fatalities. The only way out is for others who have this high end to extend their hands and support us in any forms. As it was mentioned by, I think, Commodore Tariq, same way, that let us collaborate and collaborate in a manner that both of us, because at the end of the day, whether I am a high contributing, troops contributing country, high research institutions, even some of the militaries or governments are undertaking. Those which are successful and you have the capacity to share with us, we have to create a platform. Like IAPTC is a platform. It is not only that in every year we have one annual conference here, gather, say hello to each other, have some very high sounding presentations and discussions. No, IAPTC has a website. There are links where you are supposed to share your thoughts. You are supposed to share your new inventions, the innovative ideas, which anyone can access at any point of time and then take on this. I think Milad highlighted one thing, that at this world, possibly we are an expert of reinventing things which are already invented by someone else. So it's a wastage of effort. It's a wastage of effort. If I have started something, it has some positives and some negatives, but if 10 of you know it, analyze it, and then you can find out how to modify it, take it to the next level. And again, when you share it with me and the other 9, that's how collectively, possibly at the end, we find a product which is much more convenient, convincing, and effective. So I would urge upon, as I am taking over the presidency of IAPTC, and at the same time, BIPSOT is also the...
At times, I think this is far too high-tech for me. And yet, in another conversation, we might be talking about UAVs. So we really do need to understand what we mean by technical. In terms of just the Commandant's point about sharing, let me turn that on its head as well, in totally concurring with what he said. But I'd also say that there's a responsibility on many people here from the training centres to feed in as troop contributors to the Secretariat. And I can say this as a previous Deputy Milad in the Secretariat, about what you're thinking and using. Remember that for many countries, peacekeeping is not their primary endeavour. It's something that they do as an adjunct to other activities. And they may have all sorts of protocols, equipment, special needs that they've designed and they are using 24/7 for their primary effort. Then suddenly, one or two contingents are plucked out and taken into peacekeeping for 12 months and then brought back in. Now, contingents are plucked out, full, efficient, if the equipment is being used, the technology that's being used doing, and what their expectations are, as also, as has been said, and I think is a very fair point about doctrine, and I would say the UN is racing to catch up in this area and set some doctrine. But before they set the doctrine, it might be a good idea if the TCCs try and catch up and start to shape that doctrine. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. All right, we would like to conclude this session. We have another speaker. All right, sir, please go ahead.
I'm just going to tie a little bit into what this gentleman said. So go back 2 steps to what he said. Need to define first what exactly technical capability or capability you want the people to have. So when I say technology, that's a very, very big word. Let's just take a few examples. One, simple computing skills. I just use that one as one. What kind of, so for staff officers, there's a technology there. Technology and communication with iStar. Technology, so there's a number of different things, okay? So that needs to be very, very clearly defined of what technical capability you want. And why do I say that? Because then you can go into the sharing perspective and look at some countries where this can benefit not just you, but your country if you develop these capabilities. For example, if the person is a reservist, he actually, his full-time job is to do such and such as a staff officer. If there's a sharing program, UN can provide, or some country can provide the money to develop it. If you can show to them all the lines, do all the bus sharing, have better technology, where you can use them to do your mission. The host nation do your mission, and the country, which both benefit the host nation, and then there's also your country, your TCC. If you can get the businesses and some of them to share and break in, then you're developing that capability for yourself to deploy, but then when they come back, if they're a reserve or somebody else, they can also use it in their country. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. We'll wrap up this session. My moderator is also here, so I can sum up. Actually, we discussed both the questions very successfully. On the first question, we talked about assessing the need, formulating doctrine, correct strategy, bridging the gaps. On the second question, there were some interesting insights about co-deployment, creating a regional hub, sharing assets during the pre-deployment training, and again, the assessing the need of technology and also bringing that sharing perspective. I will conclude this one. Before that, I would like to request you, there is a comment option in the web page. Is it that, Salehin? So you are requested to share put your comments, suggestions, and inputs from this particular session. So thank you very much for a wonderful participation. I think it is the largest of 3 breakout sessions that we had. So thank you very much.
Dear audience, as we said, now after the coffee, there is the program for Idea Bazaar and also BIPSO tour. So the guides are waiting outside. They will be guiding you. Thank you.